Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 557. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Soner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, we're discussing, reviewing, and ranking Syphon Filter, Logan's Shadow for the PSP. More on that later about where it came from, where it's going, and what we think of it overall. Matt, first I want to know from you, what is a video game series that you have completely and wholly resigned to yourself is never coming back? You fought against it forever, but you've just admitted it's over. It's not going to happen.
Probably, if you asked me this 3 years ago, it's probably longer now. Jesus. I would have said Crash Bandicoot. I would have tapped out. That came back. I would say, I don't want another Jak and Daxter game, but I don't necessarily want a new one. That's the only problem with me answering this, but I would say Uncharted.
Yeah.
It was the perfect... especially the epilogue. I mean, you can say what you want about the fourth game as a whole, but the epilogue was...
Mm-hmm. I think so. And I think if they were going to try and keep that series alive, it would have depended on the success of that movie franchise, which I don't think that's going anywhere.
Oh, Mark didn't save the franchise.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, not as a cop-out, but I feel like I could... And I didn't even intend for this to turn into a Sony thing with us talking about Syphon Filter here. But I kind of feel like most Sony first-party franchises that aren't the ones we're seeing right now are kind of... right? Like, we ain't getting no Ape Escape. I mean, you will later this year on the Free Cheese podcast, but you're not getting another one from Sony.
No.
Yeah, and Patapon... getting the spiritual successor from the folks.
Parappa, you're probably not getting one of those either.
No, definitely not. Yeah, they're like, I feel like first party Sony stuff that isn't, actively happening right now, probably gone.
Loco
Rocos.
We're like 2 years away, pending an announcement. The perfect answer to this would be Twisted Metal.
Right, but the reports are all that got killed, right?
Right. So let's see. Does the because there's a TV show. We got the TV show.
Sure.
So there's hope that maybe season 2 invigorates someone to do it. But if we don't hear anything in 2 years, I think I might be at that point of I should re-download Destruction Derby or whatever the fuck that launch title was for PlayStation 5 and.
Oh, Destruction All-Stars. Now that I have...
yeah.
I've had PlayStation Plus for a little bit now since Street Fighter 6 came out. And I've got access to that, and I still haven't...
You probably missed on the golden days. Oh, man, we're really going back here. The launch PS5 online experience was fantastic because no one knew their mic was on. And games allowed it.
Yeah, I still don't know if my mic is ever on or not. I'll be playing something in 20 minutes and I'm like, oh, I should probably hit this button.
No, you missed the golden era of that.
Yeah, that would have been good.
That was.
It feels like that was a whole 360.
I was gonna say PUBG, China #1 in that plane.
Yeah, those were different times. Different times, just like when Sony used to make handhelds that didn't just mirror what was on your PlayStation 5, and you could actually leave the house with it and play something that you wanted to play. We're talking about Syphon Filter, Logan's Shadow this week, developed by Sony Bend, published by Sony Computer Entertainment America, released on the PlayStation Portable on October 2nd, 2007. Back of the box. Desperate, alone, betrayed. Gabe Logan stands alone, They've disbanded his team, his partner is missing, and accused of treason. Experience an edge-of-your-seat thrill ride featuring a gripping story by best-selling author Greg Rucka. Which, dude, I had no idea that Greg Rucka wrote the story for this game. Until literally grabbing the box art for this in preparation of doing this. I bet his name was probably in the...
For the ignorant, including myself, who is Greg Rucka?
Oh, yeah, I was getting there.
Okay.
So Greg Rucka is a very famous comic book writer. Who's written a ton of good stuff. Batman No Man's Land was a big Greg Rucka. I mean, that was a whole like DC wide initiative or whatever, but he's just kind of had his hooks in a bunch of different books. Has been integral with like a lot of DC's bigger events and just history. But he worked on, I think, some key ones that people might like. The Batwoman series from like the late 2000s was really, really well received. It had really, really great art with from J.H. Williams III. He worked on Gotham Central with Ed Brubaker. More recently, I think he's been... I think the most recent DC stuff was he did a Wonder Woman series for DC at Rebirth in 2016. But I don't know what else. Yeah, I don't know. He's been around for a bit. He's a great, great writer. And yeah, I was surprised to see that pop up here. So, Syphon Filter Logan's Shadow is the most recent Syphon Filter video game. It's the last in the series timeline, both, game release wise and also chronologically in the game world. Yeah, what is your history with the Syphon Filter games, Matt? Because I've never played a one.
So I owned the first one. I don't remember beating it. I remember it being extremely difficult. But again, that was as a child, so I don't know. I remember this one of those games that my cousin really liked playing, and I know he owns 2. I think he ends up getting 3 as well, which is how I play some missions on there. And that was the day of cheat codes where level select was a thing, so you can kind of bounce around some different locales and whatever. So that was fun. I did end up renting the Omega Strain, which is the PlayStation 2 entry in the Syphon Filter. And that game was not good. I could barely beat the first level. That game was hard as nails. And it was one of those games... This was the infuriating part for me. It was one of those games where you're kind of put into a world and you have a list of objectives and they can fail. And you kind of like extract yourself when you're ready to get out. So on top of it being hard, the objective stuff and missing those just never felt good. So I don't remember going past the first mission in that game. So that brings me here where I have not played the PSP entry. So
yeah,
now I've played one.
I think my memory of this series is I had a demo disc that had this on it. And this is going to sound real stupid, but I was really disappointed that the whole game didn't have the cool green that all the box art had. I don't remember seeing any cool green on the inside of the game world that I saw on the outside of the game box. And therefore, I didn't like the demo, and I never pursued these games otherwise.
Did you put on your night vision goggles at any point during your demo playthrough?
I don't know.
That would have solved a lot of your problems on the green.
Probably. It's been 25 years, so I don't remember if I did or I didn't. Or if they even offered it then. But yeah. But I'm glad we get to play this one. I get to see kind of what is a Syphon Filter game. This one in particular, why did you add this to the list?
Kind of, again, another excuse to pick up my PSP in this year of the PSP for me. But two, kind of like, I don't know, maybe this is age like poor milk, or like milk, but Tetris Effect. I guess Tetris 99 came immediately after Tetris Effect, but I was thinking kind of like the latest entry in that series. Kind of has critical acclaim, almost like some of the most critical acclaim probably in that series in at least a while. And everyone talks about like with Syphon Filter. It seems like to be like the bookends of Syphon Filter seem to be the ones to go to. And so last in the series, PSP, and it's kind of got some critical acclaim behind it. So that's why I went for the last entry in Syphon Filter.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't even think about it that way. We'll kind of weave this in and out of our conversation today. And obviously in a couple weeks, we're going to do sort of a midway point through season 12 check-in, and we'll talk more about PSP stuff in depth there and kind of what your year with the PSP has been like. But just playing through this one, how do you feel this works as a PSP title specifically?
I think it works very well. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it general for right now. I think it works just very well as a PSP experience.
No, I mean, we can dive specifically, and I think like the way that the game, and I don't know if this is how all Syphon Filter games are, but I feel like the way that you like choose weapons and you cycle through your available gadgets and those types of things all felt right, when you would use the D-pad to pull those things up. I feel like aiming, shooting, like everything was in the right spot. Everything felt right to me.
I feel like that was just clever mapping to the PSP buttons. So one of the things is, and I'm already getting into my review. One of the things I mentioned in my review, this is probably the most playable Syphon Filter game in today. Because going back to those classic ones, they don't use the dual analog sticks. So you're like looking like up and down with, I think it's up and down with the triggers, kind of like Armored Core style. And it's tough to go back to. So, and like with the weapon switching back then, I'm pretty sure it was mapped to like two buttons to let you switch around. It didn't have a wheel, but just kind of like keep going until you find the one. I think gadgets may have been mapped to the other two buttons, or I'm struggling to remember now, but like that was how it was, like traditional mapping for the time. I remember that. And this one, I think it's clever on how they use the limitations of the PSP to its advantage, because I think if you're playing a third person or first person shooter on the PSP, you're going to quickly realize you don't have a right analog stick. And I think how they addressed it is clever.
How did they address it?
Well, they used the face buttons, which sounds disgusting. It is kind of disgusting. And then you kind of let yourself get used to it. And then you realize you should not be running and gunning in this game anyway. And then you use the cover system, and then it kind of works. And everything,
it works pretty well.
It becomes intuitive, and it's not a terrible experience.
Yeah, I think I've been on the old PSP train here for a few years recently. Really, I mean, I've had a PSP Go since the Vita launched, because I was that cool guy who didn't have a PSP until after the Vita, and then said, well, I should probably buy a Go, right? And then I, just a few years back, picked up a PSP 3000 and now a 1000. So I've been kind of like in this PSP resurgence. And in that time, shout out to all my Coded Arms freaks out there. I've been playing stuff like Coded Arms, where, like the aiming is all bound to the face buttons. And it does feel really blasphemous at first. You're like, it's uncomfortable. It's weird. You're over aiming or under aiming. Like it's, you overcorrect at times too. It's a weird. Yeah. But you get used to it. And I think this one is just another one of those, that works well. I do think in terms of a PSP game, I think this one's cool in terms of like showing what the PSP was capable of, that it really was Sony's attempt at like making the PS2 portable, but I wouldn't call this a portable game by any stretch of the imagination. I think it has a great checkpointing system so that you're kind of like naturally hitting certain stopping points as needed. But overall, like this feels like a PS2 game that just happens to be on your PSP. And of course, later it would be ported to PS2. And today, Sony has made it, it's one of the PSP games you can play on your PS5, probably PS4 as well. And it's weird. And listener, I apologize. There are certain games that Sony has let you just buy now on PS4 and 5. There are others that you must have PlayStation Plus at a certain tier in order to play. I don't know where this falls. I just know that it is available on the modern consoles. And I believe you could use the right stick in that case. But I don't know.
I looked into this. There's some remapping you have to do. And then like in the menu, you're stuck using like the directional pad or something for button selection. It's a bit messy in the menus, but once you get outside of them, it becomes a better experience.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, so you felt like I was worried when I jumped into this and started aiming. I was like, oh, Matt is going to hate this. I think especially like, I don't know. Have we had an okay time recently with video games? I forget what we've played. I feel like there's been a couple of games that we've just been, I guess Metal Gear Acid was one that was a little like,
part of that was because I was on a plane and I had no instruction manual.
Fair. But I feel like we had Syndicate was a little rough.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it wasn't the best game.
Gravity Rush. Like we had a couple of games this season so far that have been like a little trying on our patience. So getting into this, I was like, oh man, I don't know how Matt's going to react to this one. But you did well. You liked it.
Yeah, so I will say, by the completion of Mission 1 Part 2, I had gone into the settings and tweaked the camera, the
sensitivity of
it, and the acceleration of it too. I touched all the things, and once I got that to a place that made it feel better, because my thing was it was too slow. It was just way too slow. So once I bumped up to make it feel like more responsive, like a right analog stick, with the acceleration like kind of like, I guess down, so that way there's like no acceleration time. Once I kind of bumped that to a more appropriate level, it felt more. I mean, it's never gonna replicate a stick, but it felt more. It felt as close to home as I'm gonna get. But then, you have to realize that this game's a cover shooter first. It's a cover shooter. And
I think that's key, too.
Once you get there, like, you can... And the cover shooting, like, it gives you so many... Like, you can line up the shot before Gabe pops up or out or whatever, and take the shot. Like, you know, like, you lean... Like, you use the analog stick to lean in a way... And then, like, the reticule comes up. And then, as it's up, Gabe's not out of cover. It's just, there's the reticule up in anticipation. You aim it, and then you pull the left bumper. And then, you know, your sight's right on head, body, wherever you want to put, and you start pulling the trigger. It's not, like, there's limitations. Like, it's not perfect using the face buttons, but the game works around its limitations to make it feel as good as it can.
Yeah, and I think... the game will teach you pretty quickly. I think the first few missions you can probably do okay running and gunning, but by like
flak jackets.
Yeah, there you go. Right? Like you get to a point where it's like, nope, you need to learn how to hide and play this tactfully. more than just like go kill everything. So what's the premise in Syphon Filter, Logan's Shadow?
Well, it is the first Syphon Filter game to not be about a disease that's breaking out and could kill all of humanity. So, last century doesn't even go into its whole why it's called Syphon Filter. This one is about.
So why are the other? Sorry, can you explain for anyone who's not? If someone's just jumping in, what is the?
They all. I think the first. So the first two are about like chasing down the like Syphon Filter is almost like think of it as like it's a weaponized disease, kind of like what you can do with like anthrax and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
So it was about like stopping the spread of that across the globe and tracking down who did that, and of course like and all these games, this game has it too. All these games have. Can you trust your own government, your own reporting officer, and who can you really trust? And this guy knows more than... Yeah, they all do that. So this is no stranger in this game. So the first two, I think, are about tracking down that. The third game is a timepiece. So Gabe's on in present time, the game is all in a courtroom setting, where Gabe is being tried for treason, and it's him recanting some of the stories, and it goes in and out, weaving the story of 1 and 2 as some of the missing pieces of it, as Gabe retells his story, and people come on and testify. And I don't know what 4 and 5, the Omega Strand and Dark Mirror. I know Dark Mirror is disease-related, as I was watching a little bit of a recap on story stuff before playing this. And then the Omega Stray, I guess, a different disease. That game's weird, though, because you don't play as Gabe. You create a character. It's supposed to be online. That's a weird...
Yeah, that's different.
It's not, like... It's Syphon Filter by name and maybe some gameplay, but not, like...
Not Gabe.
Not a lot of Gabe. Gabe's like your reporting officer telling you the missions, but, like, nothing... You're not playing as him.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird game.
So then this one, though, has nothing to do with the disease part of it.
No, shockingly, actually.
Because the rest of them did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no,
but
it's... But no, it's I think the main kicker here is after the first mission. Leon Zhang, now I can't remember her name. God, Zhang.
You had it, yeah.
Yeah. Gabe's right-hand man, or woman, throughout all the rest of these games, may be a double agent this entire time.
Yes.
So that throws a wrench into things. Of course, with all the other bureaucracy that Gabe and his agency has to deal with.
Yeah, and then the game kind of... There's a ton of story in this game. I didn't expect that. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect this much. It felt like,
all the Syphon Filter games have had like a heavy story.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I just always thought they were games what had green on the box but didn't have green on the inside. That's been my history of it. Yeah, so you talked a little bit about like what's different about this one in comparison story-wise and some of the other gameplay pieces, like where this one's the most accessible in modern days. Is there anything else that, in your experience, this one did well or just changed generally in comparison?
Not that I can remember. Past like some of the necessary gameplay changes for the PSP, and I think the shift in story, which I think is probably a breath of fresh air for those that have played and have seen through all those stories. Yeah. No, I your Gabe, he's got some of his moves. They kept the. Did you use the taser at all? I don't mean to jump ahead here. The little shock wire taser boy.
Not frequent. I think I used it once, maybe.
You are missing out on one of the best gameplay mechanics of Syphon Filter. That taser is so fun to play with.
Are you using that more in a stealth capacity?
when there's one enemy remaining, I'm like toggle to it and fry someone.
Okay, yeah, I feel like if I were sneaking up, like no,
I was definitely knife, but no,
yeah.
So this is all right. So you had your dumb. Oh, the cover's green, but the game wasn't. I think I also played a demo of it before I bought it. In the taser, in the demo, there's like a sequence where there's like a lot of enemies coming over a wall, and you can just sit there and you're like behind like other cop cars, and you can just you just keep sending out the taser, and you're behind enough cover where you're not in danger. And in that game, you could tase people for so long until they caught on fire, and you just kept tasing them.
Good.
Like you could never it allowed you to keep going for as long as you wanted to. So in this game,
good.
they go into smoke and then they stop. But yeah, in older games, they used to go like tase, smoke, on fire, dead.
No, I definitely didn't do that. Okay, but the one thing I did do in this one that I loved doing every opportunity I had it was electrocuting people in water.
Yes.
And, those types of kind of attacks or environmental traps you can set, that was a lot of fun. Things I didn't expect.
Yes.
Yeah. And to that, I mean, like, there's water combat in here. There's swimming. There's...
Yeah, that's new. I don't know if that's new to the franchise, but I know that's new for the PSP titles, the water stuff. And I thought I was going to hate it. I honestly thought I was going to hate it. And I'm like really enjoying... most of that's in Mission 2. There's in other spots, but yeah, most of it's in Mission 2.
Because there's like... the only time I ever hear water-based combat mentioned is when people bring up Monster Hunter 3 and they talk about it specifically as, oh, that's when they did that. You know what I mean? It's always a negative connotation. It doesn't feel good. And I think generally we think of like water levels in games and it's like, it always feels slow. It always feels sluggish and it always just doesn't feel whatever. But I didn't have that in this. It was like kind of fun. I wouldn't want the whole game to be that. If I did, I'd buy Endless Ocean. But yeah, no, I don't know. Were there any, I guess besides the taser, any other weapons that stood out or anything meaningful gadget-wise?
I like having access to all those different goggles at any time. All the IR, night vision. Well, I can't remember what the other one was.
I don't remember the names of them now, but yeah, I mean, right from the start, like you didn't have to do anything, you didn't have to earn them; it was just there.
Yeah, no, the gadgets were nice. I like the different ammo types for the sniper rifle and how, like, at the start of every part, you got that replenished. That was. I always thought like two enemies were close enough so I could do the gas, and they just were like just a hair too far apart. But it was cool to like have those opportunities to set that up. Someone with the flak jacket, you just hit them with an explosive round, and it does its fair share of damage if it doesn't get the kill. Yeah. And then I really big fan. It was a late game weapon, the desert sniper pistol.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Magnum with the scope on it towards the end. Like I think it's exclusively in that last mission. Oh, that thing, so fun.
Yeah, I was surprised at how many different things you kind of pick up throughout the world, and like some of them do kind of bleed together. Like, okay, it's another
assault rifle,
semi-automatic, whatever. But a lot of the weapons too, you could cycle between different weapon modes, swap that stuff out. The game also had quite a bit of, I don't know if I'd call it puzzle solving, but like just little things you had to do within each level sometimes to progress, or flip a switch, or lift a gate, little things like that. Finding the bombs, disarming, arming.
I think that's one of my favorite things about this game, and it's the same exact compliment I gave to the 2019 Modern Warfare. It is very good at mixing up its entire campaign with like a new... At the end of the day, you're shooting stuff, right? Behind cover.
Sure.
But like what you're doing along the way is different. Or you're escorting, or you're protecting, or you're looking for these bombs, or you're underwater, or, it mixes it all up constantly with like different weapon types and whatever. And then the best part is it knows when it's starting to overstep, and it gets out and it moves on to the next thing. And it's and it's perfect in two ways. One, it like the game always stays fresh while doing the same thing repeatedly, and like on a PSP, I know like this isn't probably like it, like you said, it is just a PS2 game on the PSP, but in that regard, like you're switching parts of missions like every 10-15 minutes. Like the game as a whole, I think 3-4 hours of that.
I don't know. It's hard because I played it like
I was very in and out. Like I might have done like 2 or 3 parts of a mission, then so I can't remember.
I feel like I was probably closer to 6 or 7 hours.
Okay, maybe it's closer to that, but
yeah, I played it like over the course of a few weeks. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean that's kind of. It wasn't over the course of a week, but like over 10 days, I would kind of pick it up like each day, do 2 parts, kind of put it back down, that kind of thing. So, I applaud it for doing. I like when games can have enough mix up in it to keep it fresh for 6-7 hours while it disguises the fact you're doing the same thing. That's I don't know. That's an accomplishment. I feel like not a lot do that.
I want to talk about the story, and I'll say this: we're going to talk about the ending of this game. I know we're kind of still early in the podcast, but I do want to hit this point. So I guess spoilers for this game, the story, and Syphon Filter as a whole. So you beat, I guess, is there anything story-wise, just overall throughout the whole beat that you want to mention before we talk about the like ending? Because I think that's the thing that's obviously lingering with me the most.
I very much like the character of Trinidad and how every time you freed her, she just straight up betrayed Gabe. And by the end of the game, Teresa, who's like your calm person, is like, Gabe, do not untie her. Do not untie her. And then unties, and she immediately hits Gabe against a terminal and runs away. And she's like, I told you not to trust her.
Yeah, like, there's enough like humor in this, while also like layering it against this whole like, there's so many different countries and factions and people and everyone involved with like up, down, good, bad, whatever. That's it. But I like that you called that out. Like it's it still has a sense of humor. So the ending of this, not even the ending, post credits.
Yeah.
The ending of it, you see, like you kind of finish the final boss and you get the cutscene where Shen, right? Kills himself. And they kind of mostly show it, which I was surprised about. Like I didn't expect that to happen. Hey, it's rated T for teen, but I don't know. You get credits, and then post credits, they just kill Gabe Logan.
Apparently.
I don't know, man.
It seems definitive, but I mean, dude, I guess you're right. I've seen Michael Myers get his head chopped off and it get redacted for resurrection. All right, so
sure, but they kind of like set everything up. Gabe wants to retire.
Find his kid.
You get your
Find his kid. He has a kid.
Right. It seems like he wants to just do his thing, right? Like he doesn't want to be a part of this, whatever. Your buddy Trinidad shows up again.
Yeah.
And in the scuffle, Gabe gets shot. And then he's on the ground, and what's her face? Leanne is like trying to revive him, but like it doesn't seem like it's there. Now you say it seems ambiguous, but I've got a quote here from a former artist at Sony Bend, who this kind of came up a couple years after. When I was looking through this, I believe timeline on this is basically after the Syphon Filter games, obviously, but before we even knew that they had been working on definitely Days Gone, but I think even before they were working on like the Uncharted Vita game. So this artist did sort of like a Q&A or just sort of was like jumping in and responding to things on Reddit. The quote here is John Garvin, who was the co-writer on this game. He's the director on all these Syphon Filter games. John Garvin got burnt out on Syphon Filter. He wanted to make something different. People seem to like to ignore that Gabe Logan died at the end of Logan's Shadow. Garvin literally killed off the main character so he wouldn't have to make any more Syphon Filter games. Plus, despite all the praise, they didn't sell well. Very low sales all around. But yeah, I mean, they definitively wanted him to die. I guess, yeah, they do still sort of like step off the gas a little bit at the end there. Like they don't put him in the ground. But as far as that's written, you know, take that for what you will. But yeah, they wanted him to be dead.
Well,
yeah. And sorry, I got the timeline now. That was 2015.
Okay.
So this was before Days Gone was announced, but after their work on Vita. But yeah, I mean, to bring kind of back to where we opened up the show, you want another one? Do you think we'll get another one?
I don't think we're getting another one. I think you might see a remaster of the first game, or like a full-on remake of the first game, or a remaster of the trilogy to make them playable on dual analog and some button adjustments. But you know, I don't see it happening. Nah, I mean,
yeah,
we talked about at the top of the show, like there's so many Sony properties that are just sitting there that could probably make money. I just said Twisted Metal not too long ago. Is probably the prime example of that. And I don't know. And then like the other thing is, like Syphon Filter blends in with so many other types of games. I don't know how they stand out. I don't know how they would make a new Syphon Filter and have it stand out in the same way and make it feel special.
I think the only way you would do that is by simply like, you'd have to be like the PlayStation game. You know what I mean? Like the way that like now you kind of have this like, there's a stink about like a God of War or a Last of Us. And I mean a good stink, you know what I mean? But like there's such a like, and there's a rampant like fanboyism behind those games too, that I feel like that's the thing that would make it unique, but that doesn't inherently make the game unique or special. It just gets people to post about it. I wouldn't even say buy it, but at least talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing gameplay-wise I wanted to bring up is QTEs, which this game's got them, but I didn't necessarily hate them. I failed a few of them.
They're fine.
But yeah, they weren't like... I've had worse. This is just usually a single button prompt. You do it, you're done, and that's it.
Yeah, most of them weren't.
Visually,
I was gonna say most of them weren't in cutscenes, so it wasn't like a fail state. You just had to like restart it. And some of them were like you might have done them in Risk, you know, and you're getting shot at while trying to like hook something. And you're mashing X. It's a little risk reward kind of move. If you failed it, you were probably like hung out to dry a little bit. But
yeah,
they were fine. I know they're part of the era. Like it's.
Yeah. No, but there's games that do these way worse. This one was like, hey, they're there. They're not. It wasn't bad. But usually when I start seeing those prompts, I'm like, oh boy, okay. And that's usually like when you see early on like a single button prompt, you know that by the end of the game you're going to start having to do like all right, now I got to hit
circle.
Yeah, none of that ever happened, which was nice. So, graphically speaking, what'd you think of the game? Way it looked, design.
I'm still wrapping my head around like what like stuff looks like on PSP. But it looks fine. We talked last week at length with Daikatana and how like it has all these different visual like differences because they used the episode so well. This is more, I don't know, samey to an extent. Like, yes, you have the water level and stuff, but like a lot of the hallways start to look the same, and the enemy designs don't necessarily change much besides little small changes that kind of indicate like a someone that's more heavily armored, or someone that's a captain that might have a bigger, a more deadly gun than the guy behind him or whatever. So it's typical military shooter fare. I don't think it doesn't. I don't think it's not a knock against it, but it's not doing anything to stand out from other stuff I've played either.
Yeah, I do like the way it looks on a PSP. Because I installed this on my PS5 at some point, and I was like, all right, maybe. And then I was like, no, I'm not even gonna boot it, because the big reason was it's got trophies now on PS5, so I was like, maybe I'll do that. But I didn't even want to do that. I wanted to play it on the original thing. And yeah, I like the way it looked on the display. I think it looked nice on a PSP. It makes the PSP feel like a premium machine, which I think was always the goal. Compared to like other things you've played on PSP so far, I mean, Acid was, I guess, technically 3 years prior to the release of this. I know that one we talked about recently, but you've been playing some other stuff on PSP. Like, how do you think it compared with other things? Not even just visually, but just, as a PSP game.
Yeah, so far from the little stuff, again, it's been a lot of like touching this, because, it's like a shotgun blast when you, in the modern era where you can, pretty much get anything on the go here, and load it into your PSP. But, from what I've played, it, I think it looks good. I think it I was gonna say it plays well, but we're talking about visuals. I just think it looks good. It's just, my thing is, like, compared to other military stuff, like, at least like Metal Gear looks like Metal Gear, and I will say this looks like a Syphon Filter game from what I remember on like PlayStation 1. And to be fair, it hasn't been too long since I retouched Syphon Filter 1, because I did start to play it a tiny bit on that PlayStation Classic when I got it. So it reminds me of a Syphon Filter game, but I just don't. They all those military shooters, again, not a bad thing. It's just they all kind of start to look the same, because they always have like that grimy hall, like they all have that grimy metallic hallway. They all have that desert level. They're all like, they all blend together.
Everything's gray or brown, or gray and brown,
except except the lieutenant with the red hat.
Yep. 2007. This had some pretty big competition. I didn't list everything here, but this is the year we got, just looking at stuff that we've already talked about on the list. I mean, you've got The Darkness, Super Mario Galaxy. Well, we didn't talk about Galaxy, but we're looking at Galaxy 2. You've got those military shooters. This is where Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare releases. It's also the year where you get debuts like Assassin's Creed, BioShock, Mass Effect. On PSP and Uncharted was that year. On PSP, you've got Ratchet & Clank, Size Matters. You've got Castlevania, The Dracula X Chronicles. I don't know. Anything like that? How do you think it compares to some of that stuff? Does it sit in a good space in 2007?
I mean, those are some heavy hitters. You just kind of said there. I mean, I think it compares well. Like, I think that's what the PSP and kind of some of the stuff you saw on Vita does well. Like, it takes these franchises that from Sony, and it tries to do something maybe just a little bit different and put on a PSP. And I don't remember what do you know the gimmick for Size Matters on Ratchet and Clank? Because I don't think it's just a straightforward game.
I don't remember. I can look it up.
I think there was a gimmick with that. I don't think there was ever a straightforward Ratchet and Clank game. Anyway, but I think this is what the PSP does well, and this is one of the things I wanted to explore was like some of that franchise library, especially in this era. Like Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter. Daxter is on this. Killzone Liberations on this console. I just kind of wanted to see what a lot of those look like, or what they do, or how they make themselves feel unique, and which ones flounder and which ones excelling at the new hardware and a new hook. It's tough to And at the end of the day here, with what you said, there is no way in hell you can tell me to compare Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, either campaign or multiplayer, to good old Syphon Filter Logan Shadow here.
I mean, Size Matters was there was some vehicular stuff with Clank.
Got it. Okay.
But
it was a Clank-driven game, though, right?
I'm seeing plenty of Ratchet, but there's a lot of Clank stuff.
Okay.
A lot of Clank. Like, most of the screenshots are like, here's Clank doing this. Here's Clank riding or flying a helicopter. Here's Clank doing, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, but I also think I do find this, like, looking at the Ratchet and Clank Size Matters and Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles, I think that Dracula X Chronicles game is dope. It's a 2.5D reimagining of Rondo of Blood, but it yeah, I don't know. That one I don't know, this one looks like a 2007 game on PSP too. But I don't know, those other ones really look like a 2007 game on PSP. This one, I don't know, it seemed like, to me, this felt like when I first saw like Liberty City Stories or something, where it was like, wait, what? You can do that on a handheld? It had that kind of vibe to it. So, how about voice acting? That was something we kind of lamented the absence of on Metal Gear Acid. Yeah, having that here, fully cutscenes and.
No, yeah, I think I think it's one of those things where, you go back to Metal Gear not having it, and it plays a part into how much you can retain in that convoluted story. And I think with, I wouldn't say this is as convoluted as Acid Story, but you're getting into that territory here. I think the voice acting helps reinforce some of the things you're reading on screen. And, you have the character, the characters show more personality through some of their voices. Like, you can tell that Cordell's just a dick, like, the moment he starts talking to you in the first cutscene. You might not necessarily get that in a text-based approach for, a couple missions or whatever. A couple parts of a mission, I should say, at least. Yeah, and I think the voice acting, it plays out well. And, again, I think Syphon Filter is one of those, like, under the radar, they always kind of do good storytelling. The cutscenes in like Syphon Filter 1 and 2 and probably even 3 look goofy as hell, but like they work. They're dynamic. They're not like an engine, just like stationary characters. They're actually like cinematic. So, I appreciate the voice acting being here to help deliver another decent story.
Yeah, no, it added to that PS2 quality of, I think especially like when you think back to what was on, because it's crazy in hindsight that the DS did so well compared to, like, if you think about like where we are today, where everybody wants a Steam Deck or they want something where they just have all their stuff but on a thing they can hold in their hand and they can carry around. Like, the PSP was doing all of that. The DS was not. And yet the DS blew it out of the water because of, the DS-ness of it. PSP did well, but yeah. I guess overall, before we get ready and rank this, did you like the game?
Yeah. Yep. I thought this is I very much like this a lot. Again, I can't get over the or I can't stress enough the get in and get out nature of the objectives of this. Because like there's a beat in, I think it's mission 5. It's the desert mission where you're escorting a tank, and you kind of do the thing 2.5 times, and you're right at the point of like, all right, I'm done with this tank, and then the tank disappears because of story reasons, and you're on to the next thing, and it's just all right, yeah, and it gets kept doing that time and time and time again.
Yeah. Is there anything we didn't cover that you kind of jotted down, or?
No. No, I think we hit everything, including the last cutscene.
Yeah, that was a shock. This game did later come to PS2. Do you think you would have rather played it there?
I think before, probably this year, actually probably before a couple years ago, I would rather play there because I'm going to assume it has twin stick capability. But no, today I'm glad I played it on the PSP because again, the limit, what they worked against with the limitation of just the amount of buttons a PSP has, any lack of a right stick. You kind of, once you allowed yourself to buy into some of the control schemes and the mechanics, it's intuitive. And like even into like, it's so weird to like come out of cover and then aim and then have to zoom in. But like once you kind of naturally discover like, oh, I don't have to hold up on the joystick anymore. Once I'm in aiming, I can move my thumb up to the directional button and like zoom in or zoom out. And like again, it's just it's buying into the control scheme, and then before you know it, it's all becoming just intuitive. And by the end mission, and there's some stuff in the end mission where like you have to hit some shots, like you have to hit headshots, you have to hit some ankle shots, followed by some tank shots. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of precision that's needed, and before you know it, like you're doing precision with the face buttons that probably episode 1, part 1, you never even thought was possible.
No, yeah, that would have been clunky, and yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is a good compliment to the PSP's legacy, and I'm glad we got to play it. What does this game do better than Metal Gear Solid, in your opinion?
Better than Metal Gear Solid. I think
I feel like Metal Gear is always the one that everyone's like, that's the stealth game, right? But obviously there's Splinter Cell, another, green on the box, but do it got green on the inside? Don't know. Never played it.
Again, has night vision goggles. I think it's like one button away.
Fair enough.
At all times.
I haven't played them.
Okay.
Won't know. But yeah, I feel like everyone always goes back to Metal Gear because of how bombastic it is and everything. But, they made 6 of these things. What does this one do better that Metal Gear could have learned from?
I think just the gameplay. It's not the fault on Metal Gear's gameplay at all. I think it's tremendous, but like there is more playing here. Metal Gear at times, believe it or not, can go a little overboard with the storytelling.
Really?
Not much. It doesn't happen a lot. You may or may not get an hour-long cutscene at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 and a 45-minute one right in the middle of it at a climactic moment. They occasionally throw those out there. But no, I think this game, it's a tighter story while it's kind of crazy, with some twists and turns along the way. And yeah, you're just playing a little bit more. Splinter Cell, since you threw out that one, Splinter Cell is just a slow game. This one's more run and gun. Even the first ones are a lot of run and gunning. Splinter Cell is very much, you gotta take your time, wait for your opportunity, and strike. Fun games. I think Splinter Cell, that's a special game and a special series in its own right, which might be another answer to the question to start the episode.
Yeah.
I can't believe Ubisoft hasn't pumped out another one of those.
It seemed like they were going to, but
yeah, no. Again, that's a different flavor of stealth. It's more true stealth, and that's one where once you get into a gunfight, you're not. It's like old school Hitman games. Like you're not going into the firefight. You're going in to camouflage yourself and take out your target and get out.
Yeah, there ain't no hammer there. I think we get ready and rank this thing. Final question while we pull up the spreadsheet, and of course, listeners, you can follow along with the list over at thefreecheese.com/thelist as Syphon Filter Logan's Shadow joins as our 95th game. So close to 100. But Matt, did Logan ever see his shadow?
What? I forget what. I never paid attention to Groundhog Day. What's the good one? Or is there even a good one?
I don't think there's a good one. It's all bad, right?
What if we just didn't care about the day, just like Logan didn't care about his own shadow? I am high on this game. I liked it a lot.
How high?
I think see myself in the range of like the Deadly Premonitions, but not above Parasite Eve.
I don't even see. Okay, Deadly Premonition is currently at 33.
And Parasite Eve is at 24. I don't.
Okay.
There's no way I could put this game above Parasite Eve.
No,
I'm there.
Not at all.
You could talk me down.
So you like this? This just ruins everything.
Oh, what? Because of Metal Gear Solid 2? That's an outlier. That's just fucked on the list. You know how in math they teach you, you ignore the outliers?
Sure.
That's where we're at.
Fair enough. I like this over Deadly Premonition. But honestly, dude, I don't know if I like it more than Luigi's Mansion.
I do personally, but I can... If that's the stopping point. Because,
know.
When you start looking in that range, I like Zone of the Enders more. I think I like Def Jam more. I think the Guardian Legend might be the one I argue I think I like better. But I like Year Walk a lot. Civ is on another planet. Maybe do 33?
Between Luigi and above
Deadly? Yeah.
I don't hate it. We've been having some just solid luck lately.
I was concerned on this one. I thought it was going to be way higher than you.
No, I liked it a lot. It's not my type of game. I will never play another one of these. I'm not going to play the other PSP one. If I play the PS1 ones, it's really just going to be to find out if it got green on the inside. But I would really... I don't know.
I'm more interested to see Dark Mirror after playing this one. I'm with you. I don't think I go back to it because I want to go to other... Again, I said it earlier. I want to dance around the franchises that what came to PSP. So, if anything, though, this makes me more excited for Killzone Liberation.
Have you seen Killzone Liberation?
No.
All right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you might be surprised at the gameplay on that one.
All right. We'll find out soon.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to Syphon Filter. I wrote the title completely
See what
stupid
happened
here. I wrote Syphon Filter Logan Shadow. That's what happens when you talk and type. Congratulations to Logan Shadow. Our new 33. We did a full breakdown of our upcoming schedule last week at the end of the show. But in case you missed it, all of our upcoming episodes are over on thefreecheese.com in the sidebar. We'll be back next week with an arcade special. So come back, hang out in the arcade with us.
We rank the arcade.
See where it ranks. Until then, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Bye.